Hey, don't bug, it's the Critical Plug, and I got for you an album reviews of the news, Drake, HABIBI, and Maid of Honor. Yes, I'm doing a double review of Drake's new editions, or I should say installments, I would say extras, to Drake's Iceman LP. Yep, the man released 3 albums in one day. Now, I am not going to review 3 albums in one sitting. That is not happening. However, I did review both albums in addition to Iceman. And to be fair, I would give Drake the benefit of the doubt that this man couldn't possibly put together 3 duds, because he has surprised me before. And I gotta give Drake credit where it's due, because throughout his career, has he made a trash album, a mid album, then came out with a great album after? He has. And has he dropped a good album after a slew of bad albums? Yeah, he has. And given the lackluster bars, the illusions of grandeur, and very obnoxious beat switches that weren't very sensible, and just a rehashing of what we already experienced from Drake, nothing groundbreaking really, I thought to myself, he could not do this again. He could not give us something lackluster again. There's no way that he could put together another sort of bitter, delusional bars again. And he didn't. Surprisingly, for Maid of Honor, I was left with tracks that I surprisingly enjoyed. And the tracks I enjoyed are not only some of the best on the LP of the series, but of Drake's career. I haven't really had this much fun from a solo Drake album in a long time. Now, is this to say that this is a great LP? No. Starting with Ho Phase, which has these undeniably energetic dance grooves. Love the rush of strings, atmospheric soundscape, the bassy but slow-mo beat hits, and Drake is really in his bag melodically and with the refrains. And then we have Road Trip, which does follow a similar formula, but I would say way more synth-driven. And Drake is really given a passionate performance with those auto-tune melodies that I feel complement the futuristic production. And the production is very linear, and I would say it does capture a very Planet Rock essence, with a little dash of The Weeknd's trilogy. It's very galactic, it's very spacey, but also very entrancing, with a lot of instantaneous refrains, and yes, you also get the classic ethereal Drake bridge, with some old school but vastly catchy call and response vocals. Do you really want to spend my money? Hell yeah! And also when the dudes come in, like, Drake is just really mixing it up here. It's definitely a refreshing change of pace on this LP. And Drake is just in absolute party mode here. This is what I wanted from CLB, due to the fact how sleepy, how comatose, how uninspired that track was. But here we have like the flirty party mode Drake. Champagne Poppy is back. Not only that, but there is a bit of a theme here, and I don't know if Drake really intended this, with the use of party drugs, partying too hard, and the negative effects of that, which isn't really something new. We've heard it from Danny Brown before, we've heard it from Eminem before, but from Drake, I would say this is a pleasant change of pace. So not only do we have the party theme, but we have the party sound as well. But unfortunately, this album does lose focus, does lose quality. Like, I would say the first half is fairly strong, but is kind of spotty. Like with the following track, Outside Tweakin', which is one of the moments where the bangers do not bang, mostly due to Drake's unenthusiastic, choppy delivery. The beat is pretty bare, it's repetitious, and the beat switch isn't exactly fireworks either. Like, especially with how tedious the beginning of this is. And there's definitely a lack of chemistry between Sonny Sandy and Drake. Like, this is certainly one of the moments where we get a very underdeveloped hook and the track just leads into nothing. However, I could honestly say we're back in banger mode with Cheetah Print, where Drake has these flirty but also hyperbolic sexual bars, like, smack that ass, leave a cheetah print. I also love the robotic effects on Drake's vocals too. I also love the thumping bass, the skittering metallics, and Sexy Red absolutely kills it in syncopation with these bright synth hits, where she's doing this twerk interpolation of the electric slide. And I really love how alive she sounds here. Like, this is probably the most alive I've heard her in a while, where she's in total command, and Drake's melodic breakdown is great too. But what is not great is Drake doing this appropriation of Caribbean culture, which he does with Central C on Which One. I mean, once he starts with tings, that's how you know it's going downhill. But unfortunately though, I don't think Drake is going to kick this cringy habit anytime soon, which he also carries on with Amazing Shape with Popcan. But I will say though, if I'm going to say something positive, I do admire the fact that they have the DJ to correlate to the theme as he's doing these roll calls, this commentary, his announcements. But I just find this track very boilerplate, very underwhelming, as Drake delivers a plethora of unflattering, flirtatious bars with this excruciatingly bad faux Caribbean accent. And the unflattering bars seem to bleed into BBW, where the lyrics just come off very backhanded. Like, I'm honestly curious if this was done by ChatGPT, mostly due to the fact that what the fuck is up with the bar, so much ash should be cremated? I still have a hard time processing that bar into this equation. Also, Drake doesn't sound very excited about these BBWs either. I'm like, if you're going to make a banger and make something passionate about women that you have a thing for, wouldn't you at least want to sound enthusiastic? Wouldn't you at least want to sound excited? But what also leaves me scratching my head is the very awkward beat switch with like these clang drums, this like Caribbean shouting of put your back in it, and also the robotic sample that follows along with it. It just doesn't make sense to me. But yeah, that track is kind of a mess. Luckily though, we do have the anthemic switch up with True Bestie, which has the synth horn backed hook with a banger refrain from iconic Savvy. Also, I love the string runs, the ghostly backing vocals, the pulsating beat that gets thicker and warbly over this Jersey club type production. And with how the horns are, how anthemic this is, how regal this sounds, how energetic this sounds, it does kind of remind me of what you would get if you had Diplomatic Immunity Dipset era and Jersey Club. I know that sounds crazy. I know, but that's what I'm getting from it. New Bestie, however, which correlates to that one or is like a sister track, I would say is the polar opposite, and not in a good way, as Drake delivers this severely underwhelming cut, as he's just singing so aimlessly. It might be the most boring cut here, with this tired ambient production and more fake patois, because we needed more fake patois. And just when you think it's gonna pick up, it just evolves into nothing. Just like Q&A, where not only is this track boring, but also the lyrics here, the punchlines, are painfully cringe. And honestly, the worst bars on this LP. Like, why are you kicking your feet up with dudes? Are you Michael Jordan? Have I always had this God complex? Holy moly. Or why do you save all these shots on your screen? Are you a goalie? Oh man, well, at least with the bad bars, there is like a okay bar to terrible bar ratio on this whole record. At least I could say that. But if that's not bad enough, Drake does this really terribly, laughably bad boy band style track. That sounds like if you were gonna pitch this to New Kids on the Block or New Edition, they would just laugh in your face. Like Stuck Like Traffic Stuck, Stuck Like Glue Stuck. Like, interesting concept for a song, I guess, but Jesus Christ, are these is this hook basic and terrible. I could honestly say though, this album does have a strong closer. And it's a closer I did not expect with Princess, where Drake takes on these heavy, distorted, psych guitars. It's pretty cutty-coded, as Drake makes an ode to this woman who is passed out in the bathroom, which I would assume from an overdose or just partying too hard, I suppose. But you could tell it's definitely an effect of substance abuse. And in a weird way, I mean, bear with me with this one. If you're a Fugazi fan watching this, which you are, maybe, but if you're not, listen to the track, Shut the Door, because this does come off as, in concept, kind of a lighter version of this, a less tragic version of this. But yeah, while there are vastly underwhelming and cringy, unflattering moments on this LP, at least I could say Drake delivered with the bangers. And I would love for him to do more electro hop, more hip house, because it sounds like he's having fun doing this. I'm having fun listening to this. And I think if he cut the dull ballads, dropped the whole Caribbean culture, because there is no way in Frosty the Snowman's balls chance in hell that he is going to do this style any service. At least, I don't think. Like, it's not like he's ever gonna do like a dub reggae track. Like, it's not like he's ever gonna expand his horizons in the Caribbean territory. So I think he should just drop that completely. But that's just me. But if he does that, he cuts out the unnecessary moments and just stops regressing, I think we could have a great album from Drake. So with this one, I am feeling 3 out of 5 black hearts in this LP. And as for the next project, HABIBI, where Drake is doing mostly alternative R&B, some throwback R&B, but I gotta say, there's a lot of underwhelming cuts on this LP. And I guess if you just want to chill, get lost in it, I guess you could like tune it out to a point where you're not really paying attention to the lyrics. But I don't know, it's just so boring to me that I don't even think it could fit that purpose. Not to mention how undeniably cringe and on the nose a lot of the lyrics on this LP could be, as he is just continuously doing the toxic, manipulative, abusive ex role, or trying to finesse a woman, but he's just doing it in an absolutely dull and boring way. A prime example of that would be Slap the City. And I don't necessarily have a problem with Lovesick Ballad Drake, where he does like the atmospheric production. It's just there's nothing to grab here, there's no emotional depth, like there's no ear-grabbing melodies, no clever lyrics to fit the narrative. Also, there's no genuine feeling here. While I could acknowledge the change of pace, while I could acknowledge the diversity, it just doesn't go in much of an interesting direction, because he sounds so asleep at the fucking wheel on most of these tracks. And there are times where he tries to resurrect 90s R&B, but he does it in such a tepid way, like on Classic. And not only does he sound disconnected most of the time, but he also delivers laughably bad similes and correlations and references that are Simpsons related on the track Spent. Like Homer Diamond sitting on my broken heart, swear I blew your head up, I should call you Marge, maybe want to lease a yacht in St. Bart's. And I'm sorry, while I'm getting intimate with someone, the last thing I want to hear is the mention of Bart and Lisa while I'm having sex. And while we're all aware, at least we should be aware of Drake's public legal issues with the whole gambling debt situation, I really do think that's why we didn't really get too many ghostwriters here. Or maybe due to L after L that Drake has taken, and due to very seedy facts about him being released. Maybe he's looked at as a pariah to the music industry, and maybe people just want to distance themselves from him. But not to mention the connections that he's broken, the bridges that he's burned, another reason why people don't want to work with him. But my God, can we get this man some ghostwriters? Can we get him some ghostwriters? And vocally, he just sounds so comatose that they just roll off as bad dad jokes. So it's not like his delivery is so zany and energetic and cartoonish that he could pull these off. No, he just sounds so unenthusiastic while singing them. Not to mention the very obnoxious vocal feature from Low Shimmy, who sounds like Kodak Black trying to do a Don Toliver impression. No thanks. And the production is so sleepy with this very slowed down voicemail vocal snippet thing. I really can't tell because it just sounds so lazy. It just sounds so tacked on. It just sounds so effortless. And the hi-hats are so weak. There's barely anything to the drums. Also, there's not much structure here because once we get the hook, that's pretty much it. We don't get the hook again. And I don't really have a problem with unconventional tracks. I don't really have much of a problem with that. But there's nothing here that's so captivating and epic. Like, let's say if Drake was trying to do like a Godspeed type thing, it wouldn't work because it just sounds so dull, so opaque. And also it seems like Drake is trying to go back into the sensual contemporary 90s R&B bag, but does it in such a uninteresting way. Where, yeah, we get the classic wailing synth intro that you would have got on like a Jodeci track from back in the day. But melodically, though, it's so emotionally flat. It's so underwhelming. And while this is a 90s track aesthetically, while this is a 90s track in terms of production, why do the vocals sound very like late 2000s? Why is he trying to do interpolations from the 2000s mixed with this? It just doesn't work. Like, the mains don't have any passion. And it's not like he has the passion or range to create a contrast of these mains and these backing because they honestly just have the same pitch to them. They both lack emotion. And not only that, but the laughably awkward and bad chipmunk vocal sample loop from this woman being asked by this man, "Is this your first time?" Yeah. And it just loops over and over. It just sounds very unsexy. It sounds like it borders on parody. And then there's Gen 5, which is a total non-starter. And we gotta talk about HURR nor THURRR, where this sounds probably the most uninterested Sexy Red has sounded in a while. Like, she sounds so tired and groggy. It doesn't even sound like her. It sounds like she's just waking up from a nap. Also, Drake barely sounds intelligible here. It's like he trails off into vocally nothing. And then he tries to make up for it with a super weak Donnell Jones Tell Me What's Up interpolation. Surprisingly, though, there is an unlikely pair that does create a highlight here, and that's Drake and Party Next Door. And surprisingly, though, I did not expect an unlikely pair to come up with a highlight on this track, which is Drake and Party Next Door on Fort Worth. And I'm not just saying that because of the CT shout out. I'm not biased here. But honestly, I feel this is the most confessional song Drake has dropped in a while, as he's talking about feeling isolated while on tour, having difficulties with being comfortable, and dealing with the air conditioner being on the fritz, and also being in a town inhabited by a bunch of racist freaks. And Drake really does show a lot of humanity on this track, and also bring humanity to fame, to tour life, how it's not all glitz and glamour. But also, what's clever about this track is the song reveals itself as a flashback, which is pretty obvious with the mentioning of Lil Wayne, and Party Next Door's appearance here vocally is very fitting. And the group vocals on the hook is very beautiful. It's very gospel-like too, almost like having a Drake religious experience. And then we have the closer on this thing, which is another non-starter, and of course, more cringy bars here. And as much as I am anti-AI, the whole Allen Iverson wanting to be like him bar is really cringe, especially with his problematic history. And while Drake does have some poignant bars here, it's very Fork and Kitchen, it's very on the nose, like it's basically something we already know. But yeah, I think this album does have its highlights, but It definitely has more duds and really just does come off as a very underwhelming R&B album from Drake. But I think with the right producer, the right ghostwriters, it could have been better. But I do think Drake does show a lot more passion and enthusiasm and does come up with a banger on High Fives, where Drake delivers a memorable hook, an actual sticky melody, with warped psych production, booming bass, crispy hi-hats, some dope refrains. Also, I gotta give it to him with the vocal variations. But Drake, for the most part, just comes off, again, very underwhelming here. We don't really get that much energy half the time. And I could say, though, with these two albums combined, it is better than Iceman. I will give it that. But I feel with how legendary Drake is and how influential he is and how he can be consistent. He can be truthful. We've learned that on If You're Reading This, It's Too Late, which is my favorite project from him. But he just doesn't. He just under-delivers. He just punches way under his weight, and it's annoying. And I would say it's decent. I would give it 2 black hearts out of 5. It's not terrible, but it's not great either. But yeah, there you have it. My opinion and my thoughts on both Drake albums. If you've given these 2 albums a listen, what did you think? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Why? And that's it. I am the plug. Hit me with a sub. Show me love. This is my opinion. If you hate it, your view's still a dub. Cool plug. Drake, Maid of Honor, Habibi. Till we meet again.